All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, there's a lot of mischief maker in Joel Embiid. We've all heard the term, don't throw rocks and hide your hands. In other words, if you have an issue with someone, don't act like you don't when they confront you. Especially when they try to, put forth an inquiry to find out exactly who it is that's trying to be a negative force in their life. Just be a man about it and say what you don't like about that person, or say what the issue is, and y'all can decide if both of your issues are valid in regards to, what the disparity is when it comes to how you perceive one another. Sometimes people, quote unquote, don't like each other because of a misunderstanding. Sometimes it's just that the personalities are not compatible. And that seems to be the case with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons comes off, at least based on the image that he portrays to the outside world, as someone who is relatively introverted and laid back. Joel Embiid comes off as the opposite. And based on both of their testimonies, but particularly Joel Embiid's, those personalities seem to be true to form. I think that Joel is someone, as most extroverts are, who gets very frustrated by personality types that are not akin to his own. Most extroverts need everyone to either be like them or be willing to be the audience for them. And certain introverts, depending on, what their personality type is like, because introvert is just basically just, a polarity. But then underneath that, you have these different character traits. Depending on what the character trait is for, an introvert, they might just not be that interested in laughing at an extrovert's jokes, because most extroverts, they have to suck all the air out of the room in an attempt to get all of the recognition and get all of the attention. Right? And certain introverts, to be honest with you, tend to be a little bit standoffish, depending on what their character traits are underneath that. Maybe Joel Embiid was offended by certain things that he felt from Ben Simmons, and that led to a trickle-down effect on the basketball floor when it comes to, their camaraderie or, their chemistry, whatever term you want to use. But I do believe that Mr. Joel Embiid has thrown rocks and he's trying to hide his hands. And I think that Ben Simmons doesn't really give a shit at this point. Like, that's when a quote-unquote relationship is over. When one or both parties don't give a shit. One person tries to apologize or tries to, show some level of contrition, and the other person I just really don't give a shit. I don't care what you did, because I'm finished with you anyway. So, what the offending party would normally try to do after that is act like they didn't do anything. And I do believe that Joel Embiid at this point is ready to have his own team. He just knows that he can't say it right now because there's the outside chance that they could bring Ben back. So he has to play the good soldier. But there's nowhere in the world that you're getting on TV saying that the turning point in the game is when a certain player did not shoot a layup when they were wide open. You said that directly into the camera and then come back and try to act as if you don't have an issue with Ben Simmons. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Ben Simmons may want out of Philadelphia, but it sounds like Joel Embiid would like him to stick around. After a report that Philly is being forced to choose between the two players and a rift is emerging, the All-Star Center vented on Twitter this morning. Stop using my name to push people's agendas. I love and hate drama. I love playing with Ben. Stats don't lie. He's an amazing player, and we all didn't get the job done. It's on.
Now notice, she didn't read the first sentence where he says, sources, trust me, bro, in quotes. In other words, Joel Embiid is saying people just make shit up and call it sources, just to keep the media news cycle going, their little fake media news cycle. And if you pay any attention to these sports debate shows, they look for anything to make a topic out of. Oh, so-and-so liked the comment on Twitter or on IG. Let's do a segment about that. Like, a lot of these people, they're very desperate. And they go to the NBA for this shit a lot because most of these guys in the NBA are a bunch of divas who don't really like each other behind closed doors. So people like Skip and Shannon or Marcellus Wiley and Emmanuel Acho, they're good for doing this. They'll go on Twitter or IG and just look for, somebody liking a certain comment or some silly shit like this. But Joel Embiid, this is a funny statement when he said, trust me, bro, as the source. But look, you don't get on TV and say the things that you said about another teammate and not feel a certain type of way. You can talk about he's an amazing player and all that all you want. At the end of the day, You don't win championships with amazing players. You win championships with great players who do their job and fulfill their role. And Joel Embiid, in my view, if he was put on a lie detector test, he does not believe that Ben Simmons has the heart or the willingness to fulfill his role in the biggest moments.
I hope everyone is back because we know we're good enough to win. So Shannon, are you buying this?
I do not believe that there is a beef between Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons.
I do. I just think that it's simmering. Let's keep in mind that, at least according to official reports, they went the majority of the season a couple of years ago not speaking to one another, on or off the floor, damn near. To the point where, in order to try to build chemistry, I think that they moved in with one another, to try to mend that breach or mend that gap. But whenever there's a problem between two people, even if they try to mend it, the connection is very tenuous, and anything can re-snap that connection.
Believe that it's not a natural fit, and that's what I was told. I just think the thing is, Skip, is that if you look at the history of Ben Simmons, how well he plays when Joel Embiid isn't in the lineup. That's a problem. Joel Embiid is one of the two best center bigs in all of basketball. It's hard to say, well, you know what? We don't want you to play X amount of games so we can maximize what Ben Simmons is. Somehow Ben needed to find a way to play like he played when Joel was out, play that way when Joel was there.
See, what Rich Paul and Ben Simmons view themselves as, or I should say, what Rich Paul and Ben Simmons view Ben Simmons' game as, is potentially a left-handed version of Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I believe that that's why they're making this strident trade demand in the offseason. They saw what Giannis was able to accomplish in Milwaukee, and I believe that Rich Paul is telling Ben Simmons, we can do this, we just have to find the right spot, and we have to get you away from Joel.
Reason, Skip, it hasn't happened. Ben also believes that they've chosen Joel over him, and he wants a fresh start. He wants out of Philly. It's as simple as that. I don't, it's not. Let's not make it complicated. They fighting each other, or they had the same different girls or something. It's not anything about that.
Agreed.
It is simple as this.
Well, we know they have the same girl because Joel Embiid just had a baby with that Brazilian model. So Lord knows if that was the case, I mean, shit, there might have been some shots fired if Ben Simmons was going up in that Brazilian model.
Believe it's a good fit. He believed the Sixers have sided, say we would rather have Joel Embiid. He says, okay, I would rather be elsewhere than be here. It's that simple. There is no beef between these two guys. It's just a fit that doesn't work.
I don't think there's an overt beef as in face-to-face.
No. I don't think they dislike each other's
right. Do that.
Well, something happened a couple of years ago, Shannon Sharp, because they went a very long spell without speaking to one another. So I know that Rich Paul might be trying to use you as a propagator of misinformation on television. But for those of us who remember, there were reports a couple of years ago that they were not speaking. So there's something there. I'm not trying to make too much of it because that happens in life sometimes. Sometimes you go a spell without speaking to someone for whatever reason. But, there's something there, and where there's smoke, there's fire.
Quarrel? Do they clash? No. Is it simmering sort of under the surface a little bit because they're not a great natural fit? Right. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Agreed.
When you said that the momentum change when...
That did not help. Again, is that heat of battle?
Yes.
Pain of losing, blowing leads to Atlanta? Shouldn't have lost to Atlanta, did lose to Atlanta. In a Game 7 at home, is it just the pain of that? Is it lashing out? Got to blame somebody. Was he the easiest scapegoat for that game? Yeah.
And then they're in Philly, too. So these guys are spending the whole game fighting, scrapping, trying to find a way to win Game 7, knowing that if they lose, they have to deal with that Philadelphia media after the game. Like, that shit is scarier even than losing the game for some of them guys, I'm sure. So they're already getting their excuses together. Joel Embiid being the main character trying to get his excuses together. And I think that Ben Simmons was like, wow. I sat there in the post-game presser after Game 7 and, I held myself accountable I spoke about what I needed to do after the game, and then I watched the post-game press conference or the post-game presser from these other people, and they're all blaming me, when I could have sat there and spoke about some of the assignments that they missed. So, I need to get the fuck up out of here, because that happens also in relationships where, you feel like you're the one always taking the humble route and the other person never does. So, like, you know what? You need to go be in a dysfunctional relationship with a toxic person so that you can realize what you had. And a lot of people, they don't realize what they had until they lose it, unfortunately for them. That's why I state, don't think that, getting rid of Ben Simmons for Dame Lillard is going to all of a sudden grant Joel Embiid and the 76ers a championship. They might find, okay, we have a guy here who can get us 30 points or 35 points or maybe even 45 if he gets hot. But he has a lot of 8 for 29 games, and he plays terrible defense.
Can't defend what he did or didn't do right there.
Correct.
He did not take the shot.
Right.
And yet even Doc threw him under a proverbial bus.
Yeah.
Well, remember, Doc Rivers is a person who's given up multiple 3-1 and 3-2 leads. So he's also heading into the press conference trying to figure out how he can blame somebody else.
Embiid, Ben Simmons was crushed over that.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him because he's got a lot of pride, obviously. He's still a young man. He just turned 25 years of age.
Yes.
Don't forget that.
Yeah.
And yet, I'm going to remind everybody that as Embiid's now coming to his senses saying, I got to try to do some damage control.
Exactly. Because that's exactly what that is. That's damage control. It's like, bro, we already saw you on camera throwing the man under the bus, under the tank, under the volcano. You threw him under everything. And now suddenly you want to act as if you want Ben Simmons there. No, you don't. You just know that if and when he gets moved, you don't want anyone asking you any questions.
It's too late. Mm-hmm. But if you look back on what they did do together, I'm going to remind you that Kawhi year, what was it, 2019?
Mm-hmm.
2019.
I mean, it's Game 7 against Toronto of Eastern Conference Finals.
It was the semifinals, wasn't it? Because then they lose. I think they lost to.
It was in the semifinals when the Toronto Raptors defeated the Philadelphia 76ers in 7 games. Because they went on in the next round to go down 0-2 to the Milwaukee Bucks, led by Giannis. And then, of course, they won 4 straight games in the conference finals. People make that mistake all the time, especially Skip Bayless. This notion that the Toronto Raptors defeated the Philadelphia 76ers in the conference finals. No, it was in the conference semifinals. And people also forget that 76er team had Jimmy Butler. That was the player who held the team together, Jimmy Butler.
Milwaukee, the finals?
The other way around. But my point is, you've got the team that's going to go win it.
You got them on the hook.
You got them on the ropes, man.
You let them off.
It's Game 7, and Embiid is sick and hurt, and
Right.
it still didn't matter.
Right.
They were still good enough, and Ben Simmons were really good in that
Right.
series. And it goes to the last drop, last shot,
It is.
and it's simply the luckiest game-winning shot I've ever seen in a playoff game because he shoots it from the corner, a la the one that we just saw him airball against Dallas.
Right.
Shoots it from the corner, and it bounces 7 times on the rim sideways, and I don't know.
Hey, yo, Skip Bayless always putting all his barbecue sauce on these stories, man. It bounced 7 times. Oh, shit. I think it bounced maybe 3 times or 4 times at the most. It ain't bounced no goddamn 7 times.
Almost like physically impossible from
Right.
the corner, and it fell.
Right.
And that was the end of that Sixers team, but you can't tell me they weren't pretty great
Right.
because they were within a bad bounce or a good bounce, right? Of an advantage.
They were a very good team, but they needed to bring back Jimmy Butler. When they lost Jimmy Butler, they really lost any realistic opportunity to win a championship. And Joel Embiid knew it. And that showed, at least in my view, it showed what they felt like was a dearth of leadership skills coming from Ben Simmons. See, Ben Simmons, he could bring the ball up, he can pressure the defense, he could pass the rock, he can be physical down in the low box, he can rebound, do all those things. But you could tell that he's a terrible leader. And his teammates don't respect him as a leader, and that's a major problem.
What do we know? When Draymond said what he said to KD, it was the heat of the moment. What happens when people get angry? They're drunk. Or they're kidding. They'll tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Joel
Joel would say
Embiid-
that. That was it.
Joel Embiid in the
He
heat
was
of the moment.
angry. He spoke his heart. I agree. So now this whole franchise is sitting back saying, uh-oh.
What have we done?
What have we done? Because I told you, they shot themselves in both feet because now it's even Maxey who's a clutch client. And Rich Paul's saying, I want him out and I want him out too.
Skip, okay, you get at least, if the fans are beating me up, I got my family, which is the team, that's going to support me, that's going to rally around me. Well, the fans killing me, and now I got the best player on the team saying that the momentum switch. When I had an opportunity for a layup, I passed and we ended up making one free throw. I got the head coach saying, I don't know if I can answer that right now. If my starting point guard, who's an all-star player, is good enough to lead us to, could we win a championship with him? So I'm getting it from the outside.
That's the same Ben Simmons who made 3 straight all-star teams. Go ahead.
So if I'm getting it from the outside.
Yeah, that was crazy, though. This play right here was fucking crazy. You actually get the spin move on your defender, and you have 5'11" Trae Young coming to challenge you. You have to dunk the basketball, dude. Like, dude, what are you doing? You have to dunk the basketball. Let me rewind this back just a little bit. This shit is crazy. Look at this shit. There's no way that Trae Young can defend this play. At worst, it's an and-one. So even if you're going to the free throw line, if you're going to miss a free throw, you're only going to miss one free throw because this is a dunk. Like, what are you doing here? That was the point where Joel Embiid said, we just cannot stay together. We have to trade this guy.
Outside and inside. Skip, why am I going to stay on this team in this city?
I don't blame him a bit. I also don't blame Joel for coming to his senses and publicly tweeting, stating that, hey, I got no problem with him. And in fact, I love playing with him because in the end, he does love playing with him because he knows they're.
And kudos to Trae Young. Trae Young understood, this guy is so shell-shocked and, he's so mentally fractured just at the thought of going to the free throw line. If I make a show of defense, he'll pass the ball, maybe give our defense an opportunity to rotate and recover.
With Ben than without Ben. Right. Because it worked well enough to get them that far. And they should have gotten past Atlanta, and then we would have seen what would have happened.
What he's saying now is what he should have said after the ball game.
Well, I got it.
That's what he should have said.
Okay, but he's a kid, too, still. At heart, he's like a kid.
Right, but why would he say that after the ball game? What he tweeted basically was in reference to people's attempts to associate or affiliate him with Ben Simmons being removed from the team. That was not even a conversation topic after Game 7. So that doesn't make any sense. I mean, he said what he said is over. What he said cannot be unsaid.
To him, and you get full of yourself, and then you get smacked in the nose, and you say things that you don't really want to say.
Here's the thing, Skip. You could start drama with Andre Drummond. You could start drama with guys that's not on your team.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is have a situation with a guy on your team.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you say that in the heat of the moment. You go home and you think of it. You lay down like, what the hell have I done?
Yeah.
This is not gonna go, Skip. This is not gonna. I don't know if have we ever heard a player say the momentum changed when we had a layup and we ended up making one free throw?
Yeah, I've never heard that. In 30 plus years of watching professional basketball, I've never heard a player say that. Now, what I do remember, I remember it from watching, a film clip pertaining to that series. I did not watch that series live, at least not with any level of cognizance. But Larry Bird, after the Celtics got blown out in Game 3, I believe it was, against the Lakers in the finals, he said that his teammates play like a bunch of sissies. That's what he said. And of course, we know the term sissy means a homosexual. So they came out in Game 4, and that's when Kevin McHale clotheslined Kurt Rambis. And that's why he did that, because Larry Bird called out the entire team. But what Larry Bird didn't do, he didn't call out another individual player on the team and say, this guy here is playing like a sissy. He said the whole team was playing like sissies. But no, I can't remember a player individually calling out another teammate and blaming him, really essentially not only for the Game 7 loss, but also for the series loss.
Head coach says, Skip, I don't know. I mean, what coach will say, do you think you can win a quarter? Normally, even if you don't believe you can, you say, yes, I believe he's good enough to lead.
Drive it home one last time. That player in question won Rookie of the Year.
Yes.
Then in the next 3 years made 3 straight All-Star teams and 2 All-Defensive teams.
Yes.
That's the guy you said, I don't know if we can win with him. And that's the guy Joel Embiid said, well, the turning point was when he didn't say his name, but we all knew what he was talking about.
So how do you come back from that, Skip?
Okay, well, right.
You don't. I mean, let's be for real. You don't come back from that, and that's why Ben Simmons wants out. Like any other relationship, once the trust is gone and you don't believe what people are saying, it's time for one of you or both of you to go.
Ben Simmons is sitting back saying, oh, now you love me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You should have thought about that before you say I gagged that layup and made one free throw. And now, how do you get value? It's already come out, made it public. He made it public that he wants to be out. How do you get value?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have to lose value because obviously, you know, for Ben Simmons to come out publicly and say, I want to be traded, that's something that he and his representation have said privately for the last month, maybe even longer than that. And they've been waiting to be moved, and they have not been moved, so now they're going public with it. You know, by the time we hear shit in the public, they've been saying it in private for at least a month, month and a half.
Average under the Bucks,
Yes. So now you're going to take pennies on the dollar. Yeah. But are you better as opposed getting rid of Ben Simmons that's not happy being there? Are you better taking pieces, parts?
I don't know. You're in trouble.
They're in trouble.
All right, let's move from this.
You know, and I always say this, and that's why many times I like to use the relationship analogies. People show you early who they are. And it's up to us to pay attention. You know, so many times we try to gloss over the things that people show us. Why is that? Because as men, we just want that new coochie. Then you get the new coochie and, you know, the water is hot. You know, she has on the hot faucet. So she's making you think that she's a better person than she really is to reel you in even further. And by the time you start to realize that, you know, this person is manipulating you or playing you, it could be too late. You may have gotten her pregnant or you may have, quote unquote, married her. That's why you have to take your time. Anytime a woman is in a rush, it's because she wants to make sure that you're well within her trap before you understand who she actually is. It's the same way with many of these professional sports franchises and how they treat their athletes, or how the athletes treat the franchise or other teammates. So, Ben Simmons, he's going to have to start over somewhere new. They're not going to be able to reel him back. It's pretty much already done. But the point being is that the Philadelphia 76ers knew what they had early with Ben Simmons. They knew that Ben Simmons was the nice-looking girlfriend who had no domestic skills and did not know how to share a home with a man, but they kept it going because she was good-looking with a fat ass and big breastises. They should have moved Ben Simmons when they had the chance for James Harden, a proven MVP caliber player who showed a willingness to at least attempt to play defense, you know, at 6'5". Now they're hoping to get back a 6-foot guard in Dame Lillard, or 6'1", however tall he is, who plays no defense at all and is a streak shooter. The thing about James Harden is, you know, James can go out there and go 4 for 19 and still dominate the game because of his passing, rebounding, pushing the basketball. Dame really, you know, I won't say he can't do it, but he doesn't do all those things. But once again, Philadelphia should have pulled the trigger on that trade when they had the chance. And that might have been, you know, that might have been the biggest trade that Philadelphia would have made for a Houston player since Moses Malone. And we remember the last time, you know, when Philadelphia made a trade of that caliber, they won a championship. But anyway, peace.